Clouds are rolling in and covering the shiny Texas sun here in beautiful Orange, Texas for day number 2 of the Dovetail Games Bassmaster Elite, sponsored by Bassmaster 2022. The game. We are having quite a tournament and a lot of gambles on the line, ladies and gentlemen. And the biggest gamble was our day 1 leader, which of course is Brock Mosley. But the question is, can Brock Mosley once again make it right back here where we're standing in beautiful Orange, Texas, Davey Height? That is a gamble. And man, I'm going to let you in on something. I had a unique sideline view. He got trash talked into making that run this morning. I was standing there while Hank Cherry and both Drews and Hank Cherry he said, "Hey Brock, remember that World Series that got won with a bunt?" And we all looked at each other, and he's like, "Exactly." And Brock looked at him, and he said, "I'm going to my truck to get my earbuds," and made the decision to make that run in that very moment.
That's a great story. I knew that it was a last-minute decision, but I did not know that's what pushed him over the top to go back there where he did yesterday. A rough ride for him this morning, but not as bad as he thought. But coming back, it will be a bumpy ride, no doubt about it, for Brock Mosley.
Bumpy ride, but all worth it. He got a bridesmaid finish at our last event. Would love to get that title here this week. But we know what time it is. It is time for our Toyota Midday Report, and that is where we are in beautiful Big Texas, the site of our next 2 Bassmaster Elite Series events. This Texas swing kicking off in beautiful Orange, Texas on the ultra-challenging Sabine River. And what a challenge it is, Davey Height.
No doubt about it. And that doesn't look as far as it is. You see the twisting and the winding of the Sabine River. Jason Christie, as a crow flies, probably only 30, 40 miles from here at takeoff. But it's much farther than that. You can see how the Sabine River has so many twists and turns. And speaking of as the crow flies about 130 miles away, but by boat about 200 miles away, Brock Mosley all the way over. You see right there just a little southeast of Houston. Had a great day yesterday, obviously day 1 leader, and then today was able to make the run. Took him a little longer, but he got into his area again with a half-ounce bladed jig with the Yamamoto Zaco trailer. Brock Mosley getting it done. Does not have that 5-pounder in his live well like he had yesterday to give him that 15 pounds or so, but a good solid limit for Brock Mosley.
You know it's a long run when you leave the alligators behind and you start passing dolphins, and that's exactly what he has done here today. But that run, as you can see, is paying off again for the 2nd day in a row.
Yeah, I'm glad you told me about him deciding and what pushed him over the top, so to speak, to make that run. Yesterday, it was like, no doubt, I cannot go over there. I'm not going over there. And it shocked me. I'm like, wow, you're a little different than I was when I was your age, because you couldn't keep me away from there. But luckily for Brock Mosley, once he got over there, he got going. And speaking of getting going, Jason Christie, took him even longer, I think, to get to his area than Brock Mosley. And when he got there, boy, he jumped right back up the leaderboard into 2nd place.
He may be lucky. Brock Mosley might have luck in some ways, but bad luck to have this guy behind you. Jason Christie, man, a proven closer, and his return to the Elite Series here. But hearing you talk about him this morning, it sounded like he was managing a NASCAR race, because gas is the most important thing.
Exactly right, Dave. He said in practice he was concerned about just the amount of fuel it would take to get that area. Obviously, he put in somewhere close on one of the official practice days. So the last day of practice, his number 1 goal was to just see if he had enough fuel to make that run. And he did, and he had 2 gallons left in his tank. So he lightened up the boat as much as he could. Only a few rods and reels, a handful of tackles, a half-ounce spinnerbait. We see him catching a lot of his fish on here. Got his boat as light as he could, made it up there, but now he has a cameraman and obviously a camera and some baggage, so we'll see how close he is on getting back today with the fuel.
A lot of questions to be answered, but right now, this is our leaderboard, and once again on top of it, Brock Mosley with 25 pounds, 10 ounces. Jason Christie hunting him down with 24.15, and Elite Series rookie KJ Queen in 3rd place.
Yeah, Dave, we don't often have to say unofficially every time we look at the leaderboard, but when you're 100+ miles away, it's certainly unofficial, only official when they bring them to you and you put them on the scales and make that weight official. These guys have a long journey back this afternoon. Brock Mosley coming across Galveston Bay with the wind picking up will be interesting to see. And Jason Christie, he is a long way up where it's a lot of stumps, a lot of blowdowns, a lot of debris in the water.
You know, first pass through these areas was pretty good, pretty productive. I got one or two more I'd like to get rid of before we start heading back. I've been kind of just letting the tide change a little bit before I go back through there. Let the tide get a little lower. And just letting the tide change, it just repositions all the fish. And I mean, you make another pass through there and continue to get bites. So that's kind of what I've been waiting to do. I got some more places up the river, but I just feel like if I leave, somebody else will pull in here. So I'm just kind of hanging around, letting the tide change, and I would love to catch me another 3 or 4 pounder, especially in the next 30 minutes or so. That way I can go ahead and head back and have that part over with. So.
I don't know if the Astros are in town today, but if he gets them real quick, maybe just go check out an Astros game all the way in Houston, which literally the first time it happened at this event obviously was Mike McClelland, and it seemed fake. But, man, that run has never paid off. Is this the time, Davey?
Well, it's setting up to be, but it has in the past. And what usually is the big problem is when we have the windy days coming back to weigh in, it taking so long, or the lack of fishing time when the wind's blowing and you're in a protected canal like you see is there, you just don't know how much time to allow.
So.
You know how you get good at that? You just get snagged a lot.
Exactly.
You get real good at that.
Well, it's a great view there from the drone to show how he is in the big city.
Davey, that key decision this morning, which until he gets back here, we will not know whether that was the right or wrong decision. But that key decision, how often in these tournaments does it literally come down to that one? Because he was committed to stay here until they literally pushed him, and you saw him, he made the decision right there. How often does a tournament get won or lost just with one decision like that?
Well, it's all about decisions, no doubt about it. But the decision you make when you leave the dock every morning is your biggest decision in every single tournament. And you try to think things out and not just make those instant, spur of the moment type decisions, but I think he made the right one in this case. Well, there are a lot of fish where Jason Christie's at.
I don't think so.
Maybe.
I think that's it. I'll do all of them. Red, it's heavy.
Fish did not help him.
Obviously, this game being brought to you by Bassmaster 2022, the official game of bass. Very excited about that, Davey Height. But I don't know what the restrictions are in the playing field in that video game. But boy, if you look at how far these two anglers, they literally went to polar opposite directions, as far away from our takeoff venue as possible.
Yeah, I don't know if I remember two anglers, first and second place in an event.
A tad bit windy for the frog.
Fishing so far away from one another by water. There's some canals that we have 6 or 8 boats 130 yards from one another yesterday morning, and we've got first and second place 130 miles away from one another.
I see Brock Mosley made a critical wardrobe change here today. Yesterday had a khaki pair of slacks on, went with black today for good reason. Yesterday, I thought he had a little piece of mud or dirt on his slacks. He was stained. He said, well, on a long run like that, you eat a candy bar. And he said a little piece of chocolate melted there. So I see he has dealt with that situation. Rather than removing the candy bar, he's just changed the color of his trousers.
Brock Mosley really focusing on these seawalls, particularly where they have a little turn or a cut in them. He said that's where these fish are setting up. I'm really curious if there's not a little shad spawn going on where he's at. The baits that he's using to catch those fish, I'm sure there's some fry garters there, but the white vibrating jig, the white buzz bait, a little top water mixed in there, seawalls.
Top of those palm trees, a pretty good telltale of what we're feeling here at the venue, and that is the wind picking up. How strong can the wind get? Is it a situation where obviously a run like that, there is so many obstacles that you're adding, just so many hurdles in between you and that victory. It's not just the fish. How strong can the wind get, or is that something we're worried about here today?
Oh, he certainly needs to be concerned about it, but the big deal is you don't want to have to run too fast. If you can take your time and maneuver through those waves, he'll be fine. He's in a good boat. He's a good driver, got experience on the Great Lakes. Just don't need to have to push it and drive faster than you should.
In comparison, Christie's run, a long run, but not crossing Galveston Bay, is he?
Walker. Sorry, buddy. I like when that happens. I think this one will cool.
Definitely helped him there. A couple ounces. As tight as this tournament is, that could be the difference in winning and not.
Jason Christie, an incredible competitor. Excited to be back here on the Bassmaster Elite Series.
There's been some of my career where I want to be here or I want to be there. I'm settled in. I'm glad to be back. If I catch them this year or if I don't catch them, I plan on catching them. But even if I don't catch them, I'm where I want to be, and it's going to be a good year.
Your time on the water is precious. You return season after season to make unforgettable memories, fight a few fish, reconnect with friends, and recenter yourself. If you count on having this time, you need an outboard you can count on to power it. That's why boaters stay with Yamaha for the long run.